Hello, I'm Joseph Dillard. Welcome to the next in our series of videos on cognitive biases in the IDL video curricula. The first one I'd like to discuss today is projection, or the mini-me bias. It echoes one aspect of the Dunning-Kruger effect, in which we overestimate how much other people share our assumptions and worldview. This bias reflects our psychological geocentrism, which is our belief that the world revolves around us, our feelings, our worldview, and our needs. It also reminds us that empathy is not innate, but developed, and that it is much easier to assume that others think and feel like us than to get out of our own mindset and look at the world as others do. The mini-me bias leads to a more entrenched version called the false consensus bias, in which we tend to believe that people not only think like us, but that they also agree with us. It's a bias where we overestimate how typical and normal we are and assume that a consensus exists on matters when there may be none. Clearly, the act of repeatedly identifying with alternative worldviews through experiential multi-perspectivalism deconstructs this bias. The next cognitive bias is called the current moment bias, and it is a built-in state dependency bias. Whatever state we are in, waking, dreaming, that tends to be the real state, and all other states less real, if not downright false and dangerous. For most of the history of humanity, there was very little survival value in thinking about the past or the future. Doing so is a fairly recent development, coming along with the advent of language about 200,000 years ago. In a natural environment, humans are safest if they stay focused in the here and now, alert to both threats and opportunities. The current moment bias is also an expression of our desire to be in control, as other states, times, and places are less certain, less under our control, and therefore more tenuous, uncertain, uncontrolled, and dreamlike. This also manifests as play now, pay later, the attraction of short-term gain and the postponing of long-term pain. The importance of this can be seen in quarterly corporate profits versus the well-being of future generations. IDL deals with this bias by throwing ourselves more fully into the present moment in a way that is designed to give up or suspend control. In a sense, IDL agrees with this bias and says, I see you and raise you, as in poker. By doing so, it creates a radical re-experiencing of the current moment that undercuts state dependency. The next bias is called the halo effect, or gee, you're wonderful bias. It generalizes from one aptitude to overall competency. For example, since Einstein was a mathematical genius, he must know something about ballet, water skiing, and relationships. We might think or say, since my favorite guru is enlightened, his group orgies must reflect a higher order of spirituality. Since my partner is so hot, they must be my soulmate. Since Hitler brought us out of depression and into economic prosperity, he must be a good leader. And so you see where this goes. The gee, you're wonderful bias probably exists from an evolutionary perspective to build group cohesiveness, which is survival value. On a psychological level, This bias reduces cognitive dissonance. If we identify with someone or some cause, questioning them or the cause undercuts our certainty, our commitment, and raises uncomfortable doubts about who we are. We might think, if I have put my trust in someone or something that is untrustworthy, that means I can't trust myself in my judgment. That means I don't know who I am and have a lot less control over my life than I want to believe that I have. I am therefore less secure. I can't have that. The way IDL deals with the, gee, you're wonderful, cognitive bias, is to remember that interviewed characters are not gods. They're not experts in all fields, but merely have a worldview that includes, yet transcends, our own, in those areas that are within their particular purview. An interviewed greyhound may only have strong and reliable interests regarding the value of persistence. An interviewed lollipop may only have preferences related to sugar intake. Just because a perspective includes but transcends our own does not make it correct, since it is only the preference of this or that interviewed character. Its validity is subject to tests of utility, which are based on our application of recommendations, and only then if those recommendations make sense from a personal or collective or consensual standpoint. Something a recommendation to jump off a cliff does not do. The next cognitive bias is called the self-serving bias, which involves the idea that our failures are situational, but our successes are our responsibility. If you win an award, or prosperous, or gain power, it is due to your hard work rather than to help, connections, or luck. However, if you fail, it's because you don't have enough time. Others had unfair advantages. You didn't get enough sleep. You were discriminated against, or the system was rigged against you. IDL sees this as a classical manifestation of the victim role in the drama triangle. Why would that be hardwired into our makeup on an evolutionary level? My guess is that it helps maintain a sense of control, reinforcing our sense of self when we succeed and avoiding responsibility when we fail. Thanks for watching. See you next time.